Roby Brock, welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. Senator Tom Cotton joins us fresh off his hour on stage with Skip Rutherford at the Clinton School of Public Service, where they discussed Donald Trump's first 100 days in office, and we're going to do the same thing too to help promote the Clinton School's program there. Welcome to you.
Thank you. It's good to be on with you. It's great to be on stage today with Skip and the Clinton School. We had a good conversation.
It's nice to have you in studio too. So we talked via satellite way too often there, but I appreciate you coming in. Well, let's talk first. You've graded Donald Trump A+ on some things, incomplete on some other things. What do you think have been his biggest domestic achievements and failures his first 100 days?
Well, I think if you're someone who voted for Donald Trump, especially if you're someone who voted for Barack Obama for 2 elections and then voted for Donald Trump in the states that matter most in the Electoral College, like Michigan, Wisconsin, you think that Donald Trump has largely delivered in these first 100 days. The economy is looking up, investor confidence up, consumer confidence up. Now that's in part based on the expectation of future reforms, whether it's tax reform or regulatory reform or what have you. Border crossings are down by almost 60%. And the president has taken steps to rein in some of the aggressive overreach from Washington, D.C. So by and large, I think people who supported Donald Trump are probably satisfied with what they've seen so far.
That's on the achievement side. What do you think has been his biggest shortcomings domestically so far?
Well, I think that's a pretty obvious answer. Healthcare. There was a false start last month in the House of Representatives. I think they moved a little too fast, didn't have enough buy-in from their own membership. As well as the president, and I think it's just important that they start back at the drawing board and get it right, not get it fast. I think the president has realized that as well now. He and his team are much more engaged from the very beginning in trying to craft a compromise solution that can get a majority vote in the House and in the Senate that he can sign. I expect that's going to happen in the coming weeks or months. Healthcare is not an issue we can dodge.
Right.
Once we get to open enrollment later this year, premiums are still going to go up. People are still going to see restricted networks with loss of doctors and so forth. So this is an issue that's going to be with us until we solve it.
It's not often I get to correct a U.S. Senator, but you missed the biggest domestic achievement that I think Donald Trump would hang his hat on, and that is the Gorsuch nomination to the Supreme Court.
So I think of that more of a constitutional achievement,
okay.
Not a mere domestic policy achievement. And people often do overlook that because with the victory that Donald Trump had in November, and Republicans holding on to the Senate, many people thought that it was just a foregone conclusion. Yeah. But that wasn't the case. It took a lot more effort by Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell, the Senate Republicans, to ensure that we confirmed Justice Gorsuch to the Supreme Court. But of all the things we've talked about, that's the one that's most lasting. You know, the balance.
Right, sure. It is a lifetime appointment.
The court hung in the balance. Justice Scalia died last year, and if Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton had appointed the next justice, there would have been a decisive liberal majority, and they would have rewritten our Constitution for a generation. As it stands now, Justice Gorsuch is part of a center-right majority that remains that we've had for 10 or 20 years. I was very pleased that Donald Trump nominated him, and I was pleased to support him as well.
These things pendulum swing all the time. All right, biggest international achievements, biggest international failure of the Trump first 100 days.
Well, on the achievement, I would say it's simply restoring American credibility, power, and prestige in the world. There's no doubt that America remains the most powerful nation in the world, but there were real doubts during the Obama era, especially in the last 4 years of the Obama era, about whether America would employ that power to defend our interests. After the Red Line fiasco in Syria in particular, I heard from leaders all around the world that they doubted America's security commitments. And in one night, Donald Trump turned the tables on our adversaries.
You don't think there's still some uncertainty, though, about America's policy towards a number of different international hotspots at this point in time?
I don't think so. If you look at what Donald Trump has done in office, what he said in office, I would say that in every region of the world, he's reassured our allies, he's strengthened our commitments, he's carried forward the policies about the Obama administration that were correct, like deploying advanced missile defense systems to the Korean Peninsula. And he's had some real achievements as well. You know, throughout the campaign, he complained that too many of our NATO allies didn't spend 2% of their economy on their military as we all promised each other. More of them are doing so, more will do so in coming years. Now, in terms of their perspective, you might say that some of his rhetoric in the campaign created the need for that reassurance. I would say it was the actions of the Obama administration that really created the need for that reassurance.
Maybe those are both right answers. We'll see. What do you think has been the biggest shortcoming of his international affairs in the first 100 days?
Well, I think that interacts with his some of his campaign rhetoric. Is that some of the things he had said on the campaign, I don't support. And they didn't really reflect all the things he said on the campaign. He sent occasional conflicting signals. And that's why in these first 100 days, there's been such an effort to go around the world by Mike Pence and Rex Tillerson and Jim Mattis, and for Donald Trump to host so many world leaders here in the United States to give them that reassurance, to let them know that we are committed to our longstanding allies, whether it's NATO, whether it's Arab states in the Middle East, whether it's Israel, whether it's Japan and South Korea and other countries in the Far East.
Last question for you here. Do Trump's business conflicts of interest and the fact that they could be influencing foreign policy, does that stuff, does that bother you at this point in time? It may not have an end result on the average everyday Arkansan, but at the same time, we still don't know all the transparency that I think some would argue is needed to understand where some decision making is coming from.
President Trump, like every federal office holder, has filed a financial disclosure statement. It shows his assets and liabilities. And this is an issue that was prominent in the campaign. Everyone knew who Donald Trump was. They knew that he wasn't a traditional politician, that he was a real estate developer who had interest all around the world. And there's really no easy way for him to kind of unwind those things. Some people said, well, he should sell everything during the transition.
No, that's not really feasible, to be honest with you.
Not only is it feasible, but it creates its own conflicts. Who would underwrite the sale? Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, who would buy it?
They're all working in the administration.
So. Well,
I'm just
but
kidding.
If he sold it, who would buy it? A bunch of oligarchs from Russia or China. So given the kind of business background Donald Trump had, there's no simple and easy way for him to do what, say, Rex Tillerson did, which is just sell a bunch of Exxon stock. But the American people were aware of that when they voted for Donald Trump.
All right, we got to end it there. Senator Tom Cotton, thanks so much. As always, good to have you in studio.
Appreciate it.
All right, we're going to be right back with a hint for our question of the week right after this.